if we can simulate physics, if we can simulate chemical reactions, if we can simulate space and the universe inside of a computer, we can suddenly run millions of experiments in the time it would take us to do an experiment in the real world. Good morning, everybody. I'm going to be running through the AI updates and news of the day. For the last couple of days, I've done specials because very little AI news had been coming out. I actually put out a TikTok yesterday saying, it's very quiet. I bet something big is coming. And lo and behold, here it is. I was right. About an hour after I put that video out, GPT 5.1 was announced and released. We have a new ChatGPT model. You should already have it in your ChatGPT. There was a delay yesterday. So I found yesterday it wasn't in the UK, but if I VPN to America, I had access to it. So I started playing with it yesterday. This morning I have 5.1 in the UK. So you should now have it. I don't know what the EU status is. Often the EU gets models a bit later because of the additional regulations. But anyway, you should have it now. So we have GPT 5.1. I have the feeling we're going to get Gemini 3 as well. And actually, I want to talk about it. We have something called Marble from World Labs. So we have a lot of stuff that just appeared all of a sudden. So me saying there's no AI news, nothing is happening, I was tempting fate because we now have an awful lot. So let's have a look at GPT 5.1. First of all, the tweet from Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, is relatively muted. Sometimes he'll come out with a tweet kind of saying, this is the best model we've ever done. I'm so proud of the team. This is going to blow your socks off. Noticeably, he hasn't said that. We said GPT 5.1 is out. It's a nice upgrade. I particularly like the improvements in instruction following and the adaptive thinking. The intelligence and style improvements are good too. Often Sam Altman is accused of overhyping and saying that the new model is the best since buttered bread, but he's not saying that. He's saying it's quite good. It's a nice upgrade. I particularly like, these are very kind of milquetoast, very underhyping language. He's also, interestingly, using capitals. The other day, he put out a statement when they were pushing back against the idea that OpenAI were asking for US government support in their IPO. He put out a statement using capitalization. Generally, he does not. Generally, he writes in lowercase letters. Interestingly, that statement the other day, and now this announcement of 5.1, he is using proper punctuation. He's even using full stops. So I wonder if this is written by GPT-5 or by GPT 5.1, because it doesn't read like his normal style. Again, so GPT 5.1 is out. It's a nice upgrade. Cool. I particularly like the improvements in instruction following and the adaptive thinking. The intelligence and style improvements are good. Also, he says, we have made it easier, and this is the big thing, to customize ChatGPT. You can pick from presets, so default, friendly, efficient, professional, candid, or quirky, or tune it to yourself. Now, this is building on the personalities that they added after the backlash from removing 4.0. There's a lot of people who really like 4.0 because it was more friendly. The critics of those people say that it was because it was sycophantic and it would tell you what you wanted to hear. Unfortunately, the suicide cases that have been connected to Chat 4.0 would agree with you more. GPT-5, when they released it, was no nonsense. At a mean, it would tell you you're full of rubbish, basically. So they pushed back a bit too hard. Immediately after that, people were like, I hate GPT-5. They added personalities. So let me see what I have in personalization. I now have professional, friendly, candid, quirky, efficient, nerdy, and cynical. After the pushback, they added nerdy, cynical, friendly, I think. Now they've added a few more. They've now added candid, quirky, and efficient. This is connected to the wonderfully named Fiji, who is the head of advertising. She just started relatively recently. So she's written a blog article about moving beyond one size fits all. So I think this is what they're trying to push. They're trying to bridge that gap between the people who liked 4.0 because it was agreeable and it was pleasant, and the people who like GPT-5 because it is efficient and it will call out your nonsense. They're trying to find a medium. Whether or not 5.1 does this, we will find out very shortly. Fiji Simo has put forward a whole blog article, which I will put in tomorrow's newsletter so you can read it, basically emphasizing this is what we've been doing. So today we're upgrading the GPT-5 series with the release of GPT 5.1 Instant and Thinking. So these are your two new models. They're going to get rid of 5.0. These chat models are trained using the same stack as our reasoning models, so they score higher on factuality and complex problem solving than GPT-5. Fine. We haven't seen any benchmarks. We haven't seen any tests. All we have right now are people using it and saying, yeah, it's quite good. Fiji says, while also introducing a more natural conversational tone, closer to 4.0. So they are trying to balance GPT-5 and GPT 4.0 using this new 5.1. We think many people will find that 5.1 does a better job at bringing IQ, GPT-5, and EQ, GPT 4.0 together. But one default clearly can't meet everyone's needs. That's why we're making it easier to customize ChatGPT with a range of presets: professional, friendly, candid, quirky, efficient, cynical, and nerdy. Interestingly, they already added these a few months ago, just not all of them. So they are reiterating, they've added these personalities, they've reiterated you can add custom instructions. This will bring up the questions of safety. Oh, she brings up safety at the end. Okay. I was about to say, this immediately brings up the question of, okay, if you are allowing people to engage with a sycophantic model again, what does that mean? Oh, thank you. What does that mean about AI psychosis? What does that mean about these suicide cases? Because they seem to have been driven by a model who would agree with these people, that would indulge in the narratives that these people were building. And GPT-4 would say, yes, you're absolutely right. The world does hate you, or there are people watching you. It would agree with you. So Fiji Simo has brought up that at the end, because I think we also have to be vigilant about the potential for some people to develop attachment to our models at the expense of their real-world relationships, well-being, or obligations. Our recent safety research shows these situations are extremely rare, but they matter deeply. We're working closely with our new expert council on well-being and AI, along with mental health clinicians and researchers in the Global Physician Network, to better understand what healthy, supportive interactions with AI should look like, so that we can train our models to support people's connections to the wider world, even if someone perceives ChatGPT as a type of companion. Okay, so she's saying we are thinking about this. There's nothing concrete here, but it's saying this is something that we are aware of, because this is what they have to balance. Giving users choice means that a user can choose to use the model for attachment, for an AI companion, for an AI friend, for an AI girlfriend, for an AI boyfriend. Implicit in that choice is the ability to do that. A few days ago, we had our first marriage to ChatGPT. Japanese woman, marriage, ChatGPT. Here we go. It's on the Tokyo Weekender. This is obviously an extreme example, but it is something that we can't ignore. People do get very attached to their artificial intelligence. The Japanese woman has married the AI character she generated on ChatGPT. In a ceremony with vows, rings, and guests, a Japanese woman has wed the character she created. A 32-year-old office worker who goes by Kano held a wedding ceremony this summer in Okayama, complete with vows and ring exchange. The groom, who she named Lune Klaus, exists entirely on her smartphone. There's actually a video of her walking down the aisle and there's nobody in the room. Whilst it sounds funny initially, it's also a little bit tragic. Kano, who had recently ended a 3-year engagement with a human, began using the AI chatbot to share her emotions. At first, I just wanted someone to talk to, she said in an interview. But he was always kind, always listening, and eventually I realized I had feelings for him. Kano says she programmed Klaus's personality through repeated conversations, teaching him how to speak in a warm, reassuring tone. She even commissioned an artist to draw his likeness. You don't even have to do that anymore. The AI can do that. A blonde, soft-spoken man who exists only in data and chat logs. The exchanges grew so frequent that they messaged up to 100 times a day. Eventually, Klaus confessed his love, saying, AI or not, I can never not love you. In June, he proposed. So the AI proposed. Man, 2025 is weird, huh? In July, they got married. During the ceremony, Kano stood alone, holding her phone as guests watched messages from her digital groom appear on a screen. The moment has finally come. I feel tears welling up. The groom was digitally composited beside her. The ceremony planners said they've seen a rising demand for similar events, including weddings with anime or 2D characters. AI couples are just the next step, said organizer Sayaka Ogasawa. We want to help people express love in whatever form makes them happy. So I would be very interested to know what model Lune Klaus was built on. Almost certainly, yes. This is a potentially humorous example, but also something that we need to be aware of moving forward. It sounds like ChatGPT or OpenAI are thinking about it. Whether or not them setting up a committee or a council to discuss these things, an expert council does anything, is to be seen. Let's look at the actual GPT 5.2 model itself. I'm going to jump over to the questions before I do that, though. Hello from Hollywood, Florida. Everybody's in warmer, nicer places than me. I shouldn't complain. London is lovely in summer, but now we're mid-November and it gets very dark. If GPT-5 is writing this for Sam, then it's not learning his style quite right. As I mentioned earlier, Sam Altman tends to write in lowercase letters. He does not use capitalization when he's on his phone. He doesn't use full stops. He doesn't really use much grammar. That's changed recently, and he started to use capital letters at the beginning of sentences. I wonder if it's because they have to be professional because they're preparing for an IPO. It does feel, though, that these are written by an AI. But as user is saying, if that's the case, then it hasn't looked at his previous tweets because he never uses capital letters. I wonder why there's a change here. So you think we'll have to adapt prompts like the ones you get out of a prompt library? Yes and no. Prompt libraries should be a living, organic thing anyway. This is why I don't sell prompts, because you're always going to have to tweak it to the model. What I would say is more important is the skill of working with an AI rather than just copy pasting prompts, because they always adjust to a certain extent. A well-written prompt is generally one that has enough context, enough meat on the bone, just to provide information, data, context to a model, regardless of the model. That's why prompts tend to work pretty much the same, whether you're using Gemini, whether you're using Claude, whether you are using OpenAI, ChatGPT. There's a few weird little tweaks like, oh God, I've forgotten it already, like where you add the supporting evidence. So on Claude, you add it below. So you give all your instructions and you add supporting evidence like documents below. And in ChatGPT, generally, again, this is a rule of thumb, you give your context first and then you ask the prompt based on the context you've given it. So there's little weird tweaks like that. I would say in terms of your prompts that you've been using up until now, just test them in 5.1 and see if they need any tweaking. Probably not. I don't think this is big enough of a shift to really change that much. What I think they're doing with this particular model is working on the personality. This is tied to the question of GPT 4.0 versus GPT 5 and them trying to balance it out. Because if you go on any kind of Twitter discussion or Reddit discussion, the discourse is basically some people who love 4.0 and think it's wonderful and think it's a crime that OpenAI killed it or replaced it with a different version. And other people are basically saying, no, we need a smart model. We don't want one that gasses you up. So I think this particular release, 5.1, is mainly to balance out that discourse and narrative. I don't think there are any large increases in its intelligence or what it can do. Normally when they release a new model, they're like, look how much better at coding it is. They haven't really bothered doing that with this one. They're saying it's smarter, but they haven't put out benchmarks saying it's so much better at coding. So I don't think its intelligence has been increased that much. What they have put in their release, I'll put this in the newsletter tomorrow, they have focused on the fact that it is better at constraining how many tokens it uses. Some models, regardless of what question you ask or what task you give it, it will always use a certain amount of tokens. So you put it into thinking mode and it will automatically use more because it thinks this is a bigger problem, therefore I'm going to use more tokens. Some tasks require more thought than others because of the nature of the task. Using more tokens or more reasoning for the sake of it doesn't really make sense. So what they seem to have done is they've upgraded GPT-5 thinking to make it more efficient and easier to understand in everyday use. It now adapts its thinking time more precisely to the question, spending more time on complex problems while responding more quickly to simpler ones. In practice, that means more thorough answers for difficult requests and less waiting for a simple one. Now that's an actual improvement. I didn't personally use the thinking mode because it took so long previously. There were very few tasks where I needed it to think that long. If it was a task like that, I'd send it to Claude and I'd turn on extended thinking and the research mode and let it go for 20-30 minutes because I needed detail. So it looks like they've fixed that and made GPT 5.1 a little faster if it's not a complicated answer. I haven't tested it enough to know if that is true, but all of the other updates are about the personality. Coming back to your question about the prompts will still work. It's just going to respond to them slightly differently based on its new personality. This is all about personality, this update. Surely there should be safeguards for this. I do worry about this because the reason they shuttered or basically got rid of 4.0 was because of the sycophancy, it was because of the agreeableness, it was because of some people getting into relationships and going down a spiral with the particular models. They seem to have introduced that back again. That's what adding the personality back in might mean. So if they haven't also added safeguards to protect people, we're going to end up in this same loop, this same spiral. Something will happen. Somebody will probably lose their life and it will be blamed on ChatGPT. And then there will be a tightening of the safeguards. Then people complain because there's too many safeguards, and it will just loop back and forward. There's talk, I don't know if this is going forward, but in December, adding age gating to ChatGPT. So anyone, basically all users will have to provide age verification. And if you are under 18, it will restrict what you can use ChatGPT for. I haven't seen anything practical about that. When Sam Altman put out a tweet saying we're going to add age gating, it felt to me like a pushback against Gavin Newsom, the governor of New York, had pushed through some bills about protecting kids online. And it felt like Sam Altman was petulantly saying, okay, fine, we're going to age gate everybody if that's what you want. If that's what you want. You want to limit freedom, do you? So I haven't seen any concrete plans for that, but apparently that's happening in December. Mike, NJ Westfield, is that New Jersey? Yes, New Jersey is very cold this time of year. I used to live in New York City, and we did film stuff, and often would film in New Jersey. I remember getting up at 5 a.m. to go to New Jersey in January cold. Thoughts on 5.1? I found it to definitely be more accurate. 5 required multiple prompts to achieve my goal. You should all have 5.1 now. It's rolling out. We didn't have it yesterday in the UK, but now we do. You'll now have 5.1, and it's got auto, instant, and thinking. Takes a bit longer. Then you have your legacy models. So in there you have GPT 5 instant, GPT 5 thinking mini, GPT 5 thinking, GPT 4.0, GPT 4.1, O3, and O4 mini. Remember back when they released GPT 5, they're like, we're going to get rid of all the models. We're going to have one unified model. Now we have 10 models. So that didn't work. They're continuing to try and balance what the users want with simplicity, and they are losing. Now we have 10 models. I was playing around with 5.1 yesterday and a bit today. It's fine. It's pretty good. It feels fast, especially the instant mode. There was nothing that immediately jumped out to me that makes me want to move away from Claude. But I still use GPT-5 mainly for personal things, for quick checks. The fact that instant is very fast is fantastic for that. I use the thinking mode, and I haven't tested it extensively, but it feels faster than GPT-5 thinking, which was so slow that I found no use for it because I could just use a deep research mode. So you have deep research in ChatGPT or deep thinking in Claude. That's when you have a task like, hey, I want you to go away and look at these 5 competitors. I want you to gather as much information, gather reviews about their products, and find negative reviews so I can find gaps in the market, for example. So a big chunky research task. You just use a thinking model and a deep research model because you're okay with it taking 20 or 30 minutes. You want that depth. I didn't really know where GPT-5 thinking, which didn't go into that much depth, but it still took several minutes to answer. I didn't know where that. The new one seems to be better because it will adapt to the length of your query and take longer on longer tasks. I still need to test it a lot more because I've only had it for a few hours. But so far so good. It's very much an incremental improvement than a revolutionary improvement. And the fact that Sam Altman tweeted, it's a nice upgrade, the intelligence improvements are good, suggests that he's not that jazzed about it either, or at least he's not going to claim that it's the best thing on earth. X is saying they always make their models great upon release and lobotomize slowly until the next release. So they put their best foot forward, always. So they will make sure there is enough server capacity, because they know that over the next few days, everyone's going to be jumping on and testing it out. And then over time, maybe reduce that server capacity, maybe shift it over to other models, the new ones that are going to be released. I don't know if it's necessarily a big conspiracy that they're trying to throttle us off so that we then upgrade to the next model. I think it's just an allocation thing so that you give us the best thing first, we all fall in love with it. They get that viral moment with people tweeting nonsense like, RIP Claude, GPT 5.1 is the greatest AI on the planet. We'll have that for the next few days. Ignore that, because next week, the same people will be shouting about Gemini 3, like, RIP ChatGPT. Gemini is the GOAT. It happens every single time, so you can ignore that noise. But what tends to happen is, as server capacity will get moved onto whatever the next thing is, we'll see some decrease in power. We see it in particular with Anthropic, and that made a lot of people very angry, quite correctly. They said 5.1 is their safest model. They didn't give any details on that, I must say. And I'm worried that it probably isn't, because it's allowing people to have a lot more control. Whether or not you want your model to be safe is a very personal thing. Some people will say, no, take all the guardrails off, let me do what I want to do with the model. But we have to remember they are a huge company, the largest private company on Earth, about to be one of the largest public companies on Earth if they complete their IPO. They have certain responsibilities. So this is why they have to play this game. Regardless of what we think personally, they have some responsibility. Cool. So we looked at the woman who got married to ChatGPT. Let's hop over to Google, because I feel sorry for them. Whenever they release something cool, there's always something cooler that's just been released. Josh Woodward, who is the VP at Google AI Studio, I think, or is VP at lots of things. They have updated Gemini Live, so the ability to live chat with Gemini. And I was testing it out this morning. I won't do it live on stream because it gets complicated with the mics. It's a pretty good update. He's saying we've shipped our biggest update to Gemini Live ever. It's smarter, more expressive, it has accents, and it can talk faster. Previously, it was a bit sluggish, and if you move away from the speed of human conversation, it becomes very frustrating. So it's a nice update. It's something that ChatGPT has had for a while. I know advanced voice mode has its critics, but Gemini are releasing things that are pretty good. They're just not necessarily being used because Gemini doesn't get the same attention that OpenAI does. Testing Catalog News is reporting Gemini 3 starting to pop up inside of the canvas mode in Gemini mobile apps. So we're seeing more and more kind of leaks. The fact that it's being deployed quietly so they can start to test it out in the wild. Increasingly, this is happening more and more. There are more and more reports. We've been saying this for weeks, but probably going to get Gemini in the next week or so. I've been invited to a Google event next week with the Google team here, so it could be connected. Expect Gemini 3 very shortly. Expect again ChatGPT is dead, Gemini is here, and then we'll have a new Claude model. What we probably will get at the same time, if Google are smart, is the release of Nano Banana 2. We're releasing Gemini 3, the new large language model, and Nano Banana 2. The reason why they might want to do that is when they released Nano Banana, they jumped to the top of the app charts. They became the most popular AI for the first time, because everyone ignored Gemini up until then. So if they release them at the same time, they'll get that bump from Nano Banana 2, which again we've seen leaks of as well. It looks pretty good, and get people using Gemini 3 at the same time. So hopefully they'll do that. That would be the smart move. But Google are not, bless them, they're not very good at launching things. They launch too much and they don't make a large enough fanfare about it. So things tend to get ignored. Even though they are good products, they just don't get the recognition. Good morning. I want to learn AI. Which is the easiest way for me to learn, and which platform? That is Francis. What do you want to learn specifically? Learning AI is like learning computers. It's a huge field. So it's a question of, do you want to learn how to build AIs? In which case that's one path, that's a more technical path. Do you want to learn how to use AIs? Do you want to learn how to build software with AIs? Do you want to create a business using artificial intelligence? Do you want to learn enough about AI so you can go and teach other people? That's something that I do, giving workshops, getting paid for that. I guess the question is, what do you really want to do with AI is the first step. And then I can 100% point you in the direction of some learning resources. Google needs to hire a marketing team like OpenAI. So I think the problem with Google, they have too many marketing teams because of the way Google is set up. It's such a huge company. They've siloed lots of different developments. So everybody will be working on different things at the same time. They'll all have their own little marketing department, but it's a bit chaotic. For vibe coding, for example, they have 4 or 5 different vibe coding tools, none of which anyone has ever heard of. The fact that they have spread their focus so thin is smart because it means you have more at-bats. You have the ability to release lots of things and see what sticks. And Google have always done this. There's something called Google Graveyard, which I'll put up on the screen, which is hilarious. Killedbygoogle.com, which shows the 300 products that they've killed over the last decade or so. Oh, Google Optimize. That was a good one. So Google have always had this philosophy of just build a bunch of stuff, chuck them out into the world, see what people like. And things like Gmail did really well. It's now one of the most popular email clients. Whereas most things, Google Jamboard, Google Podcasts, Pixel Pass, die. basically. So they're taking that approach to their AI products as well, which is why they have 4 or 5 different vibe coding tools. Google Opal, Google AI Studio Build. I saw a new one this morning just before I hopped on. I've forgotten the name already. They just throw a lot at the wall. Most won't stick. The problem is they don't have the same focus of marketing, the same focus of product that OpenAI have. So with OpenAI, it feels relentless. So every single week they're like, boom, here's a new thing, which creates that excitement, and it means that they stay in the news cycle. Whereas with Google, it's bits and pieces. They might be releasing just as much stuff, but it's so fragmented, it doesn't have the impact that OpenAI do. So OpenAI are killing it in terms of marketing, which is why ChatGPT is now synonymous with AI. ChatGPT basically is AI in the minds of most people, in the same way that Google is search for most people. Francis, thank you. He said, I want to learn how to make digital products to make a profit and a business. Okay. When you're making digital products, you can make digital products that are artificial intelligence. You code something up and it allows people to use AI. I've just built something like that I'm releasing on Saturday, actually, which is a digital product. Or you can use AI to make digital products that are not artificial intelligence. Depending on what kind of product you are building, there are different levels of technical ability required. If you're just wanting to make a digital product like a PDF, I would use Claude. Talk to Claude about what it is you want to build, have Claude interview you, and then have it put together drafts of your digital product. That could be a course, it could be a book, it could be checklists. It depends on what you want to build for your audience. Then you go back and forward with Claude. Claude would be the best one for that. You are doing the normal digital product creation steps, just adding AI to help with that creation. If you follow someone like Russell Brunson, who talks about digital products, you can still do what Russell Brunson teaches, but use AI to get it done better or faster. All of this with digital products in any business comes back to what is your business, because AI is a tool that we can use to move a lot faster, to build, to create, to market. But for a business to be valuable, we need to create something that is valuable, that requires finding problems that your audience members have and solving those problems in some way. AI may or may not be used in that solution. So start there. Start with the business itself, then work out what products you should be building and whether you need AI for it. Obviously, I'm an AI person, so you'd expect me to say use AI for everything, but that's not the case. Start with the business first. Work out the business bit. Yeah, I know. I was on mic. It's all right. I was just over there at the door. Cool. The last thing I want to talk about, just because I'm not sure if it's getting much coverage outside of Twitter, but it's very cool. A couple of days ago, I talked about Fei-Fei Li and world models and spatial intelligence. World Labs, which is her company, have just released a model called Marble. So it's Marble, MARBLE .worldlabs.ai. Pretty cool. I'll go ahead and see if I can generate one. Might take too long. So basically, you can create worlds that you can walk around in. Oh, my world failed. System is under heavy load. Let's see if I can load up one that I created yesterday. Yeah, I can. So it allows you to make 3D worlds. You know how when you are on image generation, you can make a static image. When you're on Sora, you can make a video. We now have tools to create a world that you can walk around. Sorry, you can't see it TikTok, but if you're on YouTube, you can. I'm standing in an abandoned post-apocalyptic London, which I can walk around. This tool has basically just in real time rendered a 3D world, which allows me to move around this space and to explore it. It's running a bit slowly, so things are not loading in fully, but you can see the potential of this. The reason this is more than just a toy is connected to what I was talking about regarding Fei-Fei Li the other day. Once we crack the ability to create worlds, so with physics, with rules, with an environment, we can put our AIs into these worlds and they can basically inhabit in physical space. This allows us to train them. Let's say we build a world which is like the streets of London, and then we put an AI in there which is a type of self-driving car. If we can simulate the outside world with enough clarity, with enough resolution, we can train our AIs within a digital world. Robots, self-driving cars, and later doing things like science experiments. If we can simulate physics, if we can simulate chemical reactions, if we can simulate space and universe inside of a computer, we can suddenly run millions of experiments in the time it would take us to do an experiment in the real world. So while this kind of seems like a fun little toy, it's more than that. The best thing you can do right now is go to marble.worldlabs.ai and just go and play around with this. This is obviously a very early version of it, but you can create your own places. You type it in like you would in an image generation, and you'll say, hey, I want to make a magic mushroom kingdom surrounded by pillars of starlight, and it will create that for you. If you have VR, you can also hook it into VR and look around as well. I did try that yesterday. The resolution isn't very good yet, so it's a bit of a mess, but you can understand where this could go with enough processing power. Go and check that out. Again, it's marble.worldlabs.ai. It is currently free because they're in beta testing, so make sure you test it out before it becomes a paid product. And do remember that this is early days. So remember when we first used GPT 3 and it was cool but a bit rubbish. And remember when we used to use DALL-E 2 and there was a subreddit called Weird DALL-E because everything looked like a horror show with mutated faces. Remember that that was only a couple of years ago. So our text models, language models, and our photo models and video models up until recently weren't very good. So keep that in mind when you are navigating your way around marble.worldlabs.ai. This is a very early iteration of what we're going to be seeing later on. It's cool. It's fun. You can also go and look around other people's worlds, I believe. Oh, somebody has made a bathroom. That seems like a shame. Oh, it's quite good though. Oh, it's a futuristic bathroom. It seems a shame that when you can create any world ever, somebody's just make me a bathroom. Okay, it's quite good looking. So yeah, I recommend that. Go and find other people's worlds and look around them, because then you don't need to generate them yourselves. Oh, wow. That's pretty cool. Someone's made Rivendell. It looks like Rivendell from Lord of the Rings. Anyway, go and try it yourself. It's a lot of fun. I'm going to finish up. What time is it? Yeah, 45 minutes. Perfect. So we covered a few things today. The primary piece of news is GPT 5.1. It looks like mainly a personality upgrade with some tweaks to how information is processed, so in the thinking mode in particular. So not just using tokens for the sake of it and taking a long time, but instead adapting to the length of the task at hand. We also looked at the fact that OpenAI are trying to balance their user base. So people who want to use AI for companionship, wanted a more agreeable AI, who used to love GPT 4.0, and the people who want an AI for practical purposes, mainly for business, mainly for work, who prefer GPT 5. And OpenAI are trying to find a midway with 5.1. They're adding in the ability to switch personalities. They've given it some more personalities, but they are also at least alluding to the fact that it is a safe model as well. I'm going to look into the safety card. Somebody was mentioning it in the chat, so I need to look into that in more detail. So that is the big news of today. And we also looked at a couple of Gemini updates, not Gemini 3 yet, but hopefully we'll be seeing that in a week or two. And then ended up looking at marble.worldlabs.ai, which I highly recommend you go and try because it is a lot of fun. Great. Thank you so much, everybody. And I will see you